I opened the door and my breath caught in my throat. The man standing in front of me was so beautiful that I couldn't look away. This was the man my son Leon had been talking about for the past 2 weeks. Felix's papa is really nice, Dad, but I never imagined that nice would mean this dangerous. Hi, you must be Ryder, he said, and his voice hit me right in the chest. Deep, smooth, like someone had poured velvet into words. I steadied myself, smiled, and opened the door wider. Yes, that's right. And you're Felix's dad? I tried to sound casual, but my voice shook slightly. Stupid, Ryder, get a grip. He stepped inside and I noticed his eyes, deep blue, like the ocean, fixed on my face, just for a second. But that second was enough. My heart started racing. Leon and Felix ran past us toward the gifts and balloons in the backyard. We stood there, caught in a strange silence that felt heavier than it should. You have a lovely home, he said, his smile slightly sharp, like he wanted to say something else entirely. I nodded. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing Felix to the party. He shrugged his shoulders. Felix insisted. Besides, I was getting bored at home, alone. That word echoed in my mind. Did that mean he was a single dad? Like me? We looked at each other, just for a moment, and then he glanced away. But I felt it, that tension, that pull, like electricity crackling through the air between us. Are you alone too? He asked suddenly. Direct. No formality. I swallowed hard. Yes. Leon's dad. He's not in the picture. I didn't want to explain more. But he understood. Something soft came into his eyes. Not sympathy. Understanding. There's a difference. Me too, he said. Felix's mom. She left a long time ago. He adjusted his watch, as if trying to change the subject. But I saw it, that tightness in his jaw. The pain he was trying to hide. The party went well. The children were having fun. The cake was cut, and Leon was overjoyed. But my gaze kept drifting back to him. I noticed he was watching me too. Every time our eyes met, something strange happened, like a silent conversation was unfolding between us. I found myself standing near the kitchen window, watching the kids play, when he appeared beside me. Leon seems like a great kid, he said, leaning against the counter. His proximity made my pulse quicken. He is. He's my whole world. The words came out softer than I intended. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I understand that feeling completely. We stood there in comfortable silence, watching our sons laugh and play together. I could smell his cologne, something woody and masculine that made my head spin slightly. They've become good friends quickly, I managed to say. Felix talks about Leon constantly at home. It's the first time he's connected with someone this fast. Before I could respond, Leon came running inside, pulling Felix by the hand. Dad, can Felix stay longer, please? His eyes were bright with excitement. I glanced at the other man who smiled. I don't have anywhere to be, he said, and something about the way he said it made my stomach flip. Of course he can stay, I replied, watching my son's face light up. The boys ran back outside, leaving us alone again. You're good with him, he observed. Single parenting isn't easy. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. You manage it too, that takes strength. He looked at me for a long moment, and I felt exposed under his gaze. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough, he admitted quietly. If Felix is missing out on something because it's just me. The vulnerability in his voice struck something deep inside me. I think about that every single day, I confessed. But then I see Leon smile, and I know we're doing okay. His hand moved slightly on the counter, closer to mine, not touching but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. It's lonely though, isn't it? He said, his voice barely above a whisper. Being everything to someone but having no one for yourself. My throat tightened. He had just voiced the exact feeling that haunted me every night after Leon fell asleep. Yes, I whispered back. It is. The moment stretched between us, loaded with unspoken understanding. I wanted to say more, to tell him that I hadn't felt this connected to someone in years, maybe ever, but the words stuck in my throat. The afternoon wore on, and eventually the party wound down. Other parents came to pick up their children, and soon it was just our two families left. I helped Leon clean up the wrapping paper while he helped Felix gather the party favors. We worked in sync, moving around each other in my small living room like we'd done this 100 times before. When it was finally time for them to leave, Felix hugged Leon goodbye with the unself-conscious affection of childhood. We adults stood at the door, that same charged atmosphere surrounding us. "Thank you for having us," he said formally, but his eyes told a different story. "You're welcome anytime," I replied, meaning it more than I should. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I felt like he could see straight through to all the lonely nights and quiet mornings I'd spent wishing for exactly this kind of connection. "Ryder," he said, pausing with his hand on the doorframe. "Yes?" My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "Let's meet again soon." Simple words, but their weight was something else entirely. I nodded, unable to form words. He smiled and walked away, and I stood in the doorway carrying that smile with me long after he'd gone. Leon tugged at my sleeve. "Dad, are you okay? You look funny." I ruffled his hair, trying to compose myself. "I'm fine, buddy. Did you have a good birthday?" He nodded enthusiastically, already launching into a detailed recap of every game they'd played. But I was only half listening, my mind still on the blue-eyed man who had just walked out of my house and somehow managed to take a piece of me with him. That night, after I tucked Leon into bed and turned off the lights, I stood in my own bedroom looking at my reflection in the mirror. I looked the same as I had this morning, but something fundamental had shifted. I'd spent 3 years building walls around myself, convincing myself that being Leon's dad was enough, that I didn't need anything else. But in the space of one afternoon, a stranger with kind eyes and a soft voice had made those walls feel paper thin. I climbed into bed knowing sleep would be difficult, because I couldn't stop thinking about him. Couldn't stop wondering if he was lying awake too, thinking about me. 2 days had passed since the party, and I couldn't get that man out of my head. Jackson. I hadn't even properly asked his name, but that smile, those eyes, that voice, everything was circling in my mind like a song I couldn't stop humming. Leon kept praising Felix at school, and every time he mentioned his dad, my heart did this strange little skip that I couldn't control. I saw him at the school gate. I just picked up Leon and was heading back to the car when I heard it. "Ryder." I turned around. There he was, black jacket, holding Felix's hand. My breath hitched. Was this coincidence or something else? "Hi," I said, suddenly feeling awkward. Leon and Felix immediately got excited seeing each other, launching into animated chatter about their school day. We stood there like typical parents, but something else was happening beneath the surface. His presence was so strong that I couldn't concentrate on anything else around us. "Do you always come at this time?" he asked, his tone casual but his eyes serious. I nodded. "Yeah, mostly." "You?" He smiled, and it did something to my insides. "Yes. I guess I'll be seeing you regularly now." The sentence was casual, but its meaning wasn't. My heart picked up speed. We talked for a while. Routine stuff, school schedules, children's homework, traffic patterns. But between every sentence, there was an invisible thread connecting us. Something that felt like we were saying more than our words conveyed. I noticed that he leaned slightly toward me when he spoke, as if he wanted to catch every word I said. Other parents walked past us, picking up their children, chatting with teachers, but we stood there, creating our own little bubble. I watched the way his hair fell across his forehead when he looked down at Felix, the way his jaw tensed slightly when he smiled. Everything about him seemed designed to unravel me. "The boys have really bonded," he said, watching Leon and Felix compare their backpacks. "It's nice. Felix needed a friend like Leon." There was something in his voice, a hint of sadness maybe, or relief. "Leon needed one too," I admitted. "He's usually pretty shy with new people." Jackson glanced at me. "Really?" He seemed so confident. I laughed. "That's new. Ever since he met Felix, he's been different. Happier." The words hung in the air between us, and I realized I could say the same about myself. "Ever since I met you, I've been different too." "Do you want to grab coffee sometime?" he asked suddenly. Straight. No hesitation. My eyes widened. "Coffee?" I repeated, as if I didn't understand the word. He smiled, and God, that smile could stop traffic. "Yeah, parents can be friends too, right?" "Friends." That word didn't feel right, but I nodded anyway. Sure, why not? He pulled out his phone. Here, put your number in. My hands trembled slightly as I took his phone and typed in my digits. I handed it back and he immediately called me so I'd have his number too. Jackson, he said, introducing himself properly for the first time. I smiled. Ryder, but you already knew that. He kept smiling. Yeah, I know. We stood there for another moment, neither of us wanting to be the first to leave. Felix pulled on his dad's hand. Papa, I'm hungry. Jackson ruffled his son's hair. Okay, buddy, let's go home. He looked at me one more time. I'll text you. It wasn't a question, it was a promise. I drove home with Leon chattering beside me, but I barely heard him. My mind was replaying every second of that conversation, analyzing every look, every smile, every word. Was I reading too much into this? Was he just being friendly? Or was there something more happening here? At dinner, Leon asked casually, Dad, do you know Felix's papa now? I tried to appear nonchalant. Yes, we talked today at school. Leon smiled. That's good. Felix says his papa is very lonely at home. That sentence pierced through me. Lonely. I was that too. Did Jackson feel the same emptiness I felt every night? The same longing for adult conversation, for connection, for someone who understood. After putting Leon to bed, I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand, staring at Jackson's contact. Should I text first? Would that seem too eager? I was acting like a teenager and it was ridiculous. I was a grown man, a father, someone who had his life together, but somehow, this man had reduced me to a nervous mess. My phone buzzed, my heart leaped. It was him. Coffee on Sunday? We can drop Felix and Leon at the park. We can talk. Simple. Casual. But my heart was racing like I'd just run a marathon. I typed back yes with shaking fingers. One word. But that one word contained so much more. Sunday was only 2 days away. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, trying to calm my racing thoughts. This was just coffee. Just two single parents getting to know each other. Nothing more. But even as I tried to convince myself, I knew I was lying. This felt like something more, something that both terrified and exhilarated me. I got up and went to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. Looking at my reflection, I barely recognized myself. There was something in my eyes, a spark that had been missing for 3 years. Hope, maybe, or possibility, or danger. When had I become this person? Someone who got butterflies over a text message, someone who counted down the days until a coffee date. I'd spent so long being just Leon's dad that I'd forgotten what it felt like to be Ryder, a person with wants and needs beyond parenting. The next day at school pickup, I looked for him. My eyes scanned the crowd of parents automatically, and when I spotted that black jacket, that familiar posture, something settled in my chest. He saw me too. Our eyes met across the schoolyard, and he raised his hand in a small wave. I waved back, feeling absurdly pleased by this tiny interaction. That night he texted again, looking forward to Sunday. 3 words, but they kept me awake until past midnight, staring at my phone screen, reading and rereading them like they held some secret code. I finally replied, me too, and then, because I felt brave in the darkness, sleep well, Jackson. His response came immediately. You too, Ryder. I fell asleep with my phone still in my hand, a smile on my face, and for the first time in years I dreamed of something other than just surviving. I dreamed of possibility. Sunday morning arrived and I found myself standing in front of my closet for 20 minutes, staring at my clothes like they were written in a foreign language. This was just coffee. Casual. Friendly. A parent meetup. But when I finally chose a black shirt, applied cologne and styled my hair just right, I knew I was lying to myself. This wasn't just coffee. This was something else entirely. I dropped Leon off at the park with Felix. The boys were ecstatic, already planning their games. I saw Jackson standing by the cafe entrance, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. When he spotted me, his smile was so genuine that something twisted in my chest, sweet and painful at once. You made it, he said, straightening up. We shook hands and the contact lasted a beat too long. I felt the warmth of his palm, rough and strong, like it could hold on to something and never let go. We went inside and found a quiet corner table. After ordering our coffee, the first 2 minutes were awkward, both of us knowing we wanted this but unsure how to begin. Then he broke the silence. Felix is really happy with Leon. He's never made friends this quickly before. I nodded, grateful for the easy topic. Leon is the same. He keeps talking about how cool Felix is. We both smiled, and just like that, the tension eased. The conversation began to flow naturally. We talked about our lives, our children, our struggles. He told me about how his wife had left when Felix was only 3 years old. She said she couldn't handle it anymore. Motherhood, marriage, all of it was too much for her. His voice carried pain but not bitterness. I moved my hand closer to his on the table. I'm sorry, Jackson. He looked down at our hands, inches apart. The energy between us was electric. What about you? He asked, holding his coffee cup. I took a deep breath. Leon's dad never showed interest. From pregnancy through birth, he was just absent. When Leon was born, he didn't even come to the hospital. I managed everything alone. Diapers, feedings, sleepless nights. One day he texted me, I'm done. Good luck. That was it. Over. I tried to laugh it off, but the expression in Jackson's eyes aches me cold. Not sympathy, respect, understanding. You did an amazing job, he said, his voice soft. Leon is lucky to have you as his dad. I smiled. Felix is lucky too. We felt quiet, but the silence was comfortable, like we didn't need words. Just being there together was enough. Suddenly he said, Ryder, I want to ask you something. My heartbeat accelerated. Yes? He hesitated, then spoke. Do you ever feel alone? I mean, being a parent is incredible. The kids are everything. But sometimes it feels like no one understands, that you have your own life too, that you're also a person who needs connection. My breath stopped. That was exactly what I felt. Every single day, every night after Leon fell asleep, and the house became silent. Yes, I whispered. Always. He looked into my eyes. Deep. Like he could see straight into my soul. Me too. In that moment, the cafe was full of noise, people talking, the espresso machine hissing, but I only heard Jackson. His breathing. His presence. The closeness that was building between us, brick by careful brick. A woman bumped into our table, apologizing profusely, breaking the spell. We both laughed. The moment lightning. This place is always crowded on Sundays, he said. Want to walk instead? I agreed immediately. Perhaps too quickly. We paid and left, walking along the street toward the park where our sons were playing. The morning air was crisp, and our shoulders brushed occasionally as we walked. Each touch sent sparks through me. I haven't done this in a long time, he admitted. Done what? Just walked and talked with someone. No agenda. No responsibilities for an hour. I understood completely. It feels strange, doesn't it? Like we're playing hooky from real life. He laughed, and the sound was wonderful. Exactly like that. But good strange. We reached a bench overlooking the park playground. We could see Leon and Felix in the distance climbing on the jungle gym. We sat down, and this time our thighs touched. Neither of us moved away. Ryder, he said, turning to face me. His expression was serious now. I need to be honest with you about something. My pulse quickened. What is it? He took a breath. I haven't stopped thinking about you since the party. And I know this is complicated. We're both parents. We have responsibilities. People might judge. But I feel drawn to you in a way I haven't felt in years. My mouth went dry. I feel it too. I managed to say, from the moment I opened that door, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you either. Relief flooded his face. Really? I nodded. Really? It's been driving me crazy. He reached out and took my hand. Right there on that bench in broad daylight. His grip was firm, warm, certain. So what do we do about this? He asked. I looked at our joined hands, then back at his face. We try, I said, carefully, slowly. For our son's sake too, he smiled. And it was like the sun coming out from behind clouds. I can do slow, as long as I get to see where this goes. We sat there for a while, hands linked, watching our children play. It felt surreal and perfect at the same time. Eventually we had to collect the boys. They ran to us, faces flushed and happy. Can we do this again next week? Felix asked his dad. Jackson looked at me. What do you think? I smiled, absolutely. As we walked to our cars, Leon holding my hand and Felix holding Jackson's, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Complete. Like a missing piece of a puzzle had finally clicked into place. At my car, Jackson paused. Same time next Sunday? I nodded. It's a date. The word hung between us, loaded with meaning. He grinned. Yes. It is. I drove home with Leon chattering about his fun morning, but my mind was entirely on Jackson. On his smile, his honesty, his hand in mine. That night, I lay in bed replaying every moment, every word. My phone buzzed. Today was perfect. Thank you for being so open with me. I smiled at the screen and typed back. Thank you for being brave enough to say what you were feeling. His response came quickly. Brave or reckless, I'm not sure which. But I don't regret it. Neither did I. Not even a little bit. I fell asleep that night with hope blooming in my chest. Warm and bright. And for once, the loneliness that usually filled my bedroom was gone, replaced by something infinitely better. Possibility. In 1 week, Jackson and I met 3 times. Coffee dates became routine. Park meetups felt natural. Even at school events, we gravitated toward each other like magnets. Each encounter felt more comfortable than the last, like we'd known each other for years instead of weeks. Our text conversations were brief but meaningful. Little updates about our days, our sons, our thoughts. Leon ate pizza today and mentioned missing Felix. Felix too. He keeps asking when he can see Ryder again. The mention of my name made something flutter in my chest. I was becoming part of Felix's world, just as Jackson was becoming part of Leon's. But my son was noticing things. Children are perceptive in ways adults often underestimate. They see what we try to hide. One evening while tucking Leon into bed, he caught me off guard. Dad, you see Jackson a lot now. I paused, pulling his blanket up to his shoulders. Yes, he's Felix's father. Your friend's dad. Leon looked at me with those big, serious eyes. But you look at him differently than you look at other people. My heart sank. Differently? What do you mean? I tried to keep my voice light, but my smile felt forced. Leon wasn't fooled. Children never are. Like you're happier when he's around, and you check your phone more and smile at messages. You didn't do that before. I exhaled slowly. Was I really that transparent? Leon, he's just my friend. But even as the words left my mouth, they felt hollow. Leon didn't nod in agreement. Instead, he said something that pierced right through me. It's okay, Dad. I want you to be happy. You always do everything for me. Maybe you need someone too. Those words hit me hard. Sharp and deep, but in the best way. Leon hugged me and closed his eyes, drifting toward sleep. But I couldn't sleep that night. Was I really just seeing Jackson as a friend? I asked myself honestly, and the answer was crystal clear. I was feeling much more than friendship, so much more. The next day when Jackson called and asked, "Are you free this evening? Felix has soccer practice, and I thought maybe you and I could have dinner." I said yes without hesitation. Dinner? Just the 2 of us. No children. This was officially a date, and I felt that nervous energy that comes before something significant. I dressed like I was preparing for a first date. Dark jeans, white shirt, a touch of cologne. Looking at myself in the mirror, I realized the truth. I was falling for him. It was scary, but it was also thrilling. When Jackson arrived at the restaurant, he stopped when he saw me. Just stood there for a second, taking me in. Then he smiled. "You look really good." Heat rushed to my face. "Thanks. So do you?" And he did. Black shirt with rolled up sleeves, confident stride, absolutely stunning. Over dinner, we talked about everything. Our lives, our dreams, our fears regarding Felix and Leon. He confessed that he worried constantly about not being enough for his son. I understood that fear intimately. It lived in me every day. Then he reached across the table and touched my hand. Light, almost casual, but electricity shot through me. "Ryder, there's something I need to say." My breath caught. "What is it?" He looked directly into my eyes. "These past few weeks I felt something with you. I know this is complicated. We're both parents. We have children, People will have opinions, but I think I'm falling for you. I interrupted before he could finish. I feel the same way. The words rushed out. Unstoppable. Silence fell between us. Perfect, beautiful silence. Then he smiled, and it was brighter than every light in that restaurant. Really? I nodded. Yes. From that very first day, he took my hand under the table, held it tight, like he never wanted to let go. So we can try this? Take it slow. Make sure it's right for the boys too. My eyes stung with happy tears. Yes. Let's try. The evening ended outside the restaurant. In the parking lot, he pulled me into a hug. Tight, warm, safe. I felt his heartbeat against mine. And in that moment, everything felt absolutely perfect. We walked to our separate cars, but before I got in, he called my name. Ryder? I turned. Thank you for being honest with me tonight. For not running away. I smiled. Thank you for being brave enough to say what you felt first. Driving home, I couldn't stop grinning. Leon was already asleep when I got back, but I checked on him anyway, watching his peaceful face. He'd given me permission to be happy. My 7-year-old son had somehow understood what I needed before I fully understood it myself. I got ready for bed, but sleep took a long time to come. My mind kept replaying every moment of the evening. Jackson's confession, the way he held my hand, that hug in the parking lot. My phone buzzed. Tonight meant everything to me. Sweet dreams. I typed back quickly. It meant everything to me too. Good night, Jackson. His response was immediate. Good night, Ryder. I finally fell asleep with a lightness in my chest I hadn't felt in years. The loneliness that usually filled my room was gone, replaced by something infinitely better. Hope. Joy. The promise of something real. The next morning, Leon noticed immediately. You're smiling a lot, Dad. I was making his breakfast and I couldn't help the grin on my face. Am I? He giggled. Yeah. It's nice. You should smile more. At school drop-off, I saw Jackson across the parking lot. Our eyes met, and even from a distance, I could see his smile. He waved. I waved back. Such a simple gesture, but it made my entire day brighter. That afternoon he texted, "Can't stop thinking about last night." My fingers trembled as I typed back, "Me neither." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "When can I see you again?" "Whenever you want," I replied. And I meant it. I would rearrange anything to spend time with him. We made plans for the weekend. Another coffee date while the boys played at the park. But this time it felt different. We weren't just 2 single parents becoming friends. We were 2 people exploring something deeper. Something that had the potential to change both our lives. That night I thought about what Leon had said. That I deserved to be happy. That I needed someone too. For 3 years I'd convinced myself that being a father was enough. That I didn't need romance or partnership or love. But Jackson had shown me how empty that belief was. I did need someone. I needed connection, affection, understanding. I needed what Jackson was offering. A chance at something real. And for the first time since Leon was born, I was ready to take that chance. I fell asleep that night thinking about blue eyes and warm smiles. About strong hands and gentle words. About a man who saw me not just as Leon's dad but as Ryder. Just Ryder. And that made all the difference. The next month felt like living in a dream. Jackson and I were officially together. Carefully. Quietly. But together, we hadn't told Leon and Felix yet. Wanting to be certain before we introduced that complexity into their lives. But we were happy. Incredibly happy. Jackson looked at me like I was his entire world. And I felt complete for the first time in years, like I'd found a missing piece of myself I hadn't known was lost. We met whenever the boys were in school. Coffee became our ritual. Lunch dates filled our afternoons. Sometimes we just drove around, talking and laughing, enjoying each other's company. I showed him my favorite place, the small lake where I took Leon on weekends. He showed me his favorite bookstore, where he and Felix spent Saturday mornings. Slowly, deliberately, we were weaving ourselves into each other's lives. One evening we were at his house. Felix and Leon were at a playdate at another friend's home. We were alone, sitting on his couch, close, his arm wrapped around my shoulders. I rested my head his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Steady, strong, safe. Everything he was. Ryder, he whispered, running his fingers through my hair. The gentle touch made me sigh contentedly. I want to make this official. Tell Leon and Felix. Then tell everyone else. I don't want to hide anymore. I want the world to know you're mine. I lifted my head to look at him. His eyes were serious, intense. Are you sure? People will talk? There'll be questions, maybe judgment. He nodded firmly. I've never been more sure of anything. You came into my life and changed everything. I can't let you go now. I was about to say something romantic, about to kiss him, when his phone rang. Unknown number. He ignored it, but it rang again, and again. Annoyed, he answered. Hello? His tone was irritated, then his face changed completely. Color drained away. His expression froze. Why are you calling me? My stomach dropped. I sat up, watching him. Jackson? I asked, concern flooding my voice. He held up his hand. Wait, no. You can't just come back. Felix doesn't even remember you. You left when he was 3 years old. 3. His voice shook with anger and pain mixed together. I watched his hands tremble as he gripped the phone. What do you mean you've realized your mistake? Now, 7 years later? He hung up abruptly and buried his face in his hands. His breathing was rapid and shallow. Felix's mom, he said, his voice breaking. She wants to come back. My heart plummeted. What? He looked at me with tears in his eyes. She says she's changed. Been in therapy. Wants to see Felix. Wants to rebuild the family. Says she made a terrible mistake and she's ready now. I couldn't speak. I just stared at him, trying to process what this meant. What are you going to do? I whispered, afraid of the answer. He shook his head. I don't know. She's his biological mother. She has rights. But Ryder? He grabbed my hand desperately. You know what's important to me, you know, but there was confusion in his eyes. Fear. And I knew. Everything had just become incredibly complicated. That night I left him alone. He said he needed to think, needed space. I understood, but when I got home and sat alone in my room, I realized everything was about to change. And maybe, I might lose. The following days were torture. Jackson became distant. Messages grew infrequent. Calls became rare. I understood why. Felix's mom had returned. They were meeting, talking, and Jackson was torn between his past and his present. Between his son's happiness and his own feelings. I gave him space. Didn't text constantly. Didn't call repeatedly. But every night I stared at my phone, hoping for a message. Leon noticed. Dad, why are you sad? He asked one evening. I forced a smile. I'm not, buddy. Everything's fine. But Leon knew better. You haven't talked to Jackson, have you? I looked at him, surprised. You knew about us? He nodded. Yeah. Felix told me his mom came back. Even the children were discussing it. Yes, sweetheart. That's why Jackson is busy right now. Leon hugged me tightly. He should come back to you, Dad. You like him. I can see it. A week passed. Then 10 days. The silence was deafening. I went through the motions, taking care of Leon, going to work, managing the household. But inside I was breaking. I'd opened my heart after 3 years of keeping it locked away, and now I was paying the price. Then, late one night at 10, he called. Can you meet me at the park? Our park. Just us. My heart pounded as I drove there. When I saw him sitting on the bench, head in hands, he looked broken. Devastated. Ryder, he said, his voice cracked and raw. I'm so sorry. I sat beside him. Sorry for what? He looked at me and I could see dark circles under his eyes. For hurting you. For being confused. Because when Felix heard his mother wanted to see him, his face just lit up and I couldn't. His voice broke completely. I took his hand. Jackson, you're a good father. If Felix needs his mother, you have to consider that. I understand. He shook his head, tears falling. But what about us? I promised I'd never leave you. And now I smiled through my own tears. We'll figure something out. Think about Felix first. He cupped my face in his hands. I love you, Ryder. For the first time in years I felt alive. With you. You showed me that life isn't just about surviving. You taught me how to live again. My breath hitched. I love you too, I whispered, saying it for the first time. But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes children come first. And that's how it should be. He kissed me then. Desperate. Painful. Like goodbye. I kissed him back as tears fell from both our eyes. Salty. Bitter. But somehow still beautiful. Because it was real. It was ours. When he pulled back, he said, "I need time to decide what's best for Felix and his mother. His happiness is the most important thing." I nodded. I understand, but understanding and accepting are different things. But Jackson, if you ever need me, I'm here. Always. He left slowly, and I sat there alone. Again. The stars above seemed dimmer than usual. When I got home, Leon was asleep. I watched him, my son, my everything. Maybe some things aren't meant to be. Maybe I'd lost Jackson, but I had Leon, and his happiness, his smile. That was my world. The next week was absolute torture, complete agony. Jackson had become a ghost in my life. Messages were scarce, calls practically non-existent. I understood what was happening. Felix's mother had returned. They were meeting regularly, talking, planning, and Jackson was caught between his past and present, between what Felix might need and what he wanted for himself. I gave him the space he'd asked for, resisted the urge to text constantly, fought against calling him just to hear his voice. But every night I found myself staring at my phone, hoping for some sign that we were still okay. Leon observed everything with the sharp awareness children possess. "Dad, something's wrong," he said during dinner one evening. I attempted a convincing smile. "Nothing's wrong, sweetheart. I'm just tired from work." Leon wasn't buying it. "Is it because of Jackson?" Felix said his mom has been coming to their house a lot. The pain in my chest intensified. Even the children were aware of the situation unfolding. "Yes, that's part of it. Jackson needs to focus on his family right now." Leon came around the table and wrapped his arms around me. "But we're his family too now, aren't we? You and him?" I held my son close, fighting back tears. "It's complicated, buddy." Leon pulled back to look at me seriously. "Adults always say that when things are hard. But I think if you love someone, you should fight for them." His wisdom startled me. When had my 7-year-old become so insightful? "Sometimes fighting means letting go," I said softly, giving them space to make the right choice. 2 weeks had passed since that conversation in the park. 2 weeks of silence that felt like 2 years. I threw myself into work, into being the best father I could be to Leon. But the emptiness was there, a constant ache I couldn't ignore. Then one night, close to 10 again, my phone rang. "Jackson." My hands shook as I answered. "Hello?" His voice was rough, exhausted. "Ryder, I need to see you. Same place, please." I arrived at the park before him, sat on our bench, waited. When he appeared, walking slowly toward me, he looked like he'd aged years in just 2 weeks. I stood up as he approached. "I made my decision," he said without preamble. I braced myself. "Okay." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I'd come to recognize as his sign of stress. "Felix's mother, she's been consistent, showing up, being present. He's responded to her in ways I didn't expect." My heart was breaking, but I kept my expression neutral. "That's good. He deserves to have his mother in his life." Jackson looked at me with such anguish that I almost couldn't bear it. "But here's the thing. She wants to move back in, wants us to try being a family again, for Felix's sake." "And what do you want?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. He stepped closer. "I want you, God. Ryder, I want you so much it hurts. But Felix is 7 years old and his mother just came back into his life. How can I choose my happiness over his chance at having a complete family?" I felt tears streaming down my face. "You can't. You shouldn't. Felix has to come first." He grabbed my shoulders. "But I love you. I'm in love with you. Walking away from you is the hardest thing I've ever had to do." I placed my hands over his. "Then don't think of it as walking away. Think of it as choosing your son, because that's what good fathers do. That's what we both do. We put our children first, no matter what it costs us." "I don't want to lose you," he whispered. I smiled through my tears. "You're not losing me. I'll always be here, maybe not as your partner, but as your friend, as someone who loves you enough to let you do what's right for Felix." He pulled me into an embrace so tight I could barely breathe. We stood there in the empty park, holding each other like we could stop time. "You're an incredible person," he said against my hair. "You deserve someone who can give you everything." "I had everything," I replied. "For a little while I had everything. And I'll treasure that." We pulled apart slowly. He wiped the tears from my cheeks with his thumbs. "If things were different," I stopped him. "They're not. And that's okay. Go be with your son. Build that family he needs." He kissed my forehead gently. "Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being you." Then he walked away. This time I knew it was really goodbye. I watched until he disappeared from sight. I drove home in a daze. The house was quiet. Leon was sleeping peacefully, one arm hanging off the bed. I adjusted his blanket and kissed his forehead. He stirred slightly. "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy. I'm here. Love you," he mumbled sleepily. "Love you too, sweetheart. So much." I went to my room and finally let myself fall apart. Sobbed into my pillow like I hadn't cried in years. Grieved for what I'd had and what I'd lost. But underneath the pain, there was something else. Pride. I'd made the right choice. I'd put Felix's needs ahead of my own wants. The next morning, I sent Jackson one final message. Whatever time we had together was the best. I hope Felix finds the happiness he deserves. Take care of yourself. I didn't expect a response. The blue check marks appeared. He'd read it. That was enough. Days turned into weeks. The ache didn't disappear, but it became manageable. I focused on Leon, on work, on rebuilding the peaceful life we'd had before Jackson entered it. Leon asked about him once. "Is Jackson happy now?" I smiled. "I think so. I hope so." "And you, Dad? Are you happy?" I looked at my son, this beautiful empathetic child who cared so much about my well-being. "I'm getting there," I said honestly. "It takes time, but I'll be okay." And I would be. 'Cause I'd loved someone genuinely, completely. I'd opened my heart after years of keeping it closed. Yes, it had ended in heartbreak, but I didn't regret it. Not for a second. Sometimes love means holding on. Sometimes it means letting go. I'd learned that the hard way, but I'd also learned that I was capable of loving again, that I could be vulnerable, that I could take risks. Those lessons were worth the pain. And someday when the hurt faded, I'd be grateful for every moment I'd shared with Jackson, because he'd given me something precious. Proof that my heart still worked, that it could still feel, that I was still alive. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.